When I was 22, I lived in a small apartment complex just outside town. It was cheap, mostly students and older people. I worked evenings and got home pretty late, so I didn't interact with my neighbors much. The guy who lived below me was maybe in his late 40s, wore glasses, soft voice, always dressed in button-up shirts tucked into jeans. Kinda neat in a way that felt too careful. The kind of guy who looks completely normal at first, but something just feels off the longer you're around him. I'd sometimes see him smoking out by the bins. He'd always nod, but never say anything. For a while, I barely noticed him. Then one night, I came home around 1 a.m. and realized I'd forgotten to bring the bins in. I went out back and dragged them up the little gravel path behind the building. As I passed his ground floor window, I noticed something. The curtains were open, lights off inside, and he was just sitting there, in the dark, on a plastic chair, maybe a meter from the window facing straight out. He wasn't watching anything, just sitting. I moved quickly past and tried not to look again. The next few nights I couldn't stop thinking about it. I convinced myself he'd just fallen asleep watching TV or something. Then, about a week later, I came home late again. I didn't even look this time. I just went straight in and locked the door. The next morning, I found a used cigarette butt on my windowsill. I lived on the second floor. There was no balcony, no fire escape, nothing outside my window but flat wall. That rattled me. I brushed it off. Told myself someone flicked it from the parking lot, and it somehow landed there. I didn't sleep well that night. The next evening, I got back from work and noticed something shoved into the doorframe. It was a folded napkin. Inside, there was a receipt from a nearby gas station, and on the back someone had written, "Quiet girl, late shifts, upstairs." That's all it said. I moved slowly all night. Checked the locks 3 times. Didn't open the curtains. I barely slept. 2 days later, I came home early. Sun was still up. As I came around the back of the building, I saw something under the gravel path. There were little holes, 4 or 5 of them, evenly spaced, dug right under my bedroom window. Not deep, but clean, deliberate, like someone had started to dig and stopped. That night I couldn't sit still. I left the light off and stood behind the curtain in my room, just watching. Around 2:30 a.m., I saw him. He came around the back with a flashlight, pointed low, looked up at my window, didn't even try to be quiet. Then he crouched down and touched the dirt where the holes were, stayed there for maybe a full minute, then just walked away like nothing. I didn't call the police. I didn't know what to say. He hadn't technically done anything illegal, but I knew exactly what I saw. The next morning, I went straight to the landlord and asked to break my lease. Told him I felt unsafe. He didn't ask why, just nodded, like he already knew. I moved the week after, left most of my furniture behind. I used to live in this small apartment block just outside the city. 6 units total, 3 on each side of a narrow hallway. I moved in after a breakup and mostly kept to myself. I wasn't interested in meeting people or making friends. I just wanted peace. The first time I met her, I was carrying groceries up the stairs. She was already standing at her door, keys in hand, like she'd been waiting for me. She smiled immediately. "You live across from me now?" she asked. "Yeah, just moved in," I said. "I thought I heard you last night. I'm Anna." She was probably in her late 30s, friendly, blonde hair and a messy ponytail, a pale yellow hoodie with a coffee stain on the sleeve. She talked fast, like she was trying to make the most of every second. That first conversation was short, but something about her lingered after I went inside. I remember locking the door and feeling not unsafe, just observed. Over the next week, she started appearing more often. By the mailboxes, on the stairs. Once I opened my door, and she was already outside, pretending to look for her keys. "Don't worry," she said, with a smile. "I'm not watching you or anything." I laughed politely, but the way she said it didn't feel like a joke. Then came the notes. Not romantic, not aggressive, just small pieces of paper slid under my door late at night. Short lines like, "I heard you laughing yesterday. It was nice. The lights from your TV come through my wall. I imagine what you're watching." I never responded. I didn't know how to. One morning, I found a Tupperware container on my doormat. Inside was a piece of cake. No note, no explanation. I threw it out. Later that day, she knocked. "Did you get it?" she asked. "Yeah, I'm not eating sweets right now," I lied. She tilted her head. "You should have told me." That night, I pushed a towel under the door, just in case. The notes stopped for a few days, and I thought maybe it was over. But then I started getting voicemails. Not from her number, just blocked calls with nothing but ambient sounds. My own hallway. My door opening and closing. Once, the sound of someone breathing close to the mic, whispering my name softly. I saved one of them and went to the building manager. He was polite, but passive. "Anna's been here a long time," he said. "Bit intense, maybe, but she's harmless." I asked if there were any other complaints. He didn't answer. That weekend, I noticed her outside my window. I live on the second floor, but the units in back overlook a small slope. She stood at the bottom of it, hands in her hoodie pocket, just looking up. She waved when she saw me. After I saw her standing behind the building, looking up at my window, I started making quiet plans to leave. I didn't tell anyone, just switched SIM cards and told my landlord I'd be ending the lease early. He didn't ask why, he just said, "Okay." Anna changed after that. Not less present, just different. She stopped smiling, stopped saying hi. When we crossed paths, she just stared. Not angry, just still. One evening, I found an envelope under my door. On the back, "Please don't be afraid." Inside was a handwritten letter. No punctuation, no structure. It started with an apology. Then came the details. How I looked under different lighting. How I walked when I was tired. How she could tell I was home by the way the air felt. She wrote she sometimes stood with her ear against the wall to feel my mood. The last line was, "I would never hurt you. Not unless you left." That night, I stayed at a friend's place. I figured if I stayed away, I could avoid anything worse before the move. But she noticed. Soon, things started appearing at my door again. Folded socks, a new toothbrush, a plastic spoon with lipstick on it. Then came the photos. First, a picture of my kitchen window taken at night. Then one of me crossing a parking lot. Then more. Me leaving work, me on my bike, me at a cafe. Not threatening, just observant. One night I stopped by the apartment to grab a few last things. My name had been removed from this mailbox, the utility panel, even my door. In their place, one single handwritten label, Anna and my name, with a little red heart. That was it for me. I went inside, locked the door, and called the police. They said what I expected. No crime had technically been committed. They could speak to her if I wanted, but warned it might escalate things. I didn't wait. I paid a moving company to clear everything the next morning. I never stayed there again. I left the lights on and walked away. The last time I saw her, I was in the passenger seat of the truck, driving off. She stood barefoot in the building's doorway, same yellow hoodie, just staring, not at me, not at the truck, through it, like she was waiting for something else entirely. I haven't seen her since, but some nights, when I lock the door before bed, I catch myself checking the floor outside, not for threats, just for anything left behind.